Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cinephile Hissy Fit podcast, the tirade-filled movie debate podcast hosted by two film critics, two cool dads, and two struggling teachers. I'm Shanahan.
I'm Will Johnson.
We're new and we're damn glad to have you. We hope you've got your judge's scorecard. Folks, this is all for tantrum's sake, where shared passions and high fives wash away any place for hate. In the end, we encourage you all to love what you love. But for now, the gloves are off and the hissy fit is on. This week, we're talking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, recommended by my host, Will Johnson. Our format is this: the recommended lover goes first. They get 5 uninterrupted minutes to shower their praise and state their high-minded case. The hater follows with 5 uninterrupted minutes of their own to present their counterparts with any manner of unintellectual scorched earth. After that, we open up for 15 minutes of shared conversation where the hissy fit really gets chippy. Folks, I hope you like your Quentin Tarantino. I hope you like Will. I hope you like me. But we're up for the Cinephile hissy fit. Will, how you doing, man?
I don't like you, but that's just a different story. Oh wait, what was that? Oh hi,
Well,
yes, I'm great.
It's kind of a different story there a little bit, but yeah.
That's
I
I am.
Hopefully, we're recording and going there.
No, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
Well, for those who don't know us,
I hope you're doing well.
For those who don't know us, Will Johnson and I are two film critics on 25yearslatersite.com. Will has been there much longer than me and is a senior, fantastic editor and contributor there. I'm only 2 years in and trying my best just to, fly the Rotten Tomatoes flag where I can just to help the site out a little bit. But I'm having a blast being on 25 Well. That's where the two of us met, and we're doing our best to kind of put something together. We argue a lot. And we've gotten to the point on social media where, like, you know what, we should argue on a microphone and see how this all turns out. So that's what brings us here to Cinephile Hissy Fit. Well, how do you feel about all this, Will?
I feel great. I am very excited. I've been like I don't know. I guess fitting with the film we're going to be talking about today, I've been kind of a character actor of podcasts. I've been invited on many. I've never been the host. I've never been the star of them.
Man.
So it's kind of cool to have my own podcast. And for those who want to have a little peek behind the curtain, I mean, it's really tough. I mean, I've done everything, just absolutely everything. Don has done nothing, and you guys wouldn't be here without me. So that's really kind of where we're at.
True. True.
So just think about that and appreciate just me, really.
Yep. To the Will Johnson God gives all the credit. Absolutely right. Finding the logo, getting the notes, starting the Zencast room, figuring out Discord. You're right. I couldn't do this. I couldn't tie my shoes without you, Will. And we're not even married.
It's pretty shocking. But we it's just the things I sacrifice for the love of cinema.
I know. But for now, the gloves are off, and we're going to tell who's right and who's wrong. It's Cinephile Hissy Fit. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, directed by Quentin Tarantino from a couple years back. Will, you are the lover of this film. I'm not exactly a full hater, but I can't go to the level you do. Are you ready for your 5 uninterrupted minutes to shower this film with praise?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So are we going to, do we have I think for the audience out there, do we have a timer?
I do.
Do we have like a special timer
when you start talking,
for this?
we got a 5-minute timer over here on my side. I'll hit the bell when it's the end of your 5. We'll kind of re-rack here a little bit. The hater myself will then go next just to kind of talk his talk, refute, and then we'll open it up for back and forth. Sound good, man?
Sounds great.
All right.
5
minutes. 3.
All right.
2.
1. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now, so you guys, just so you guys know, I'm not really a huge Tarantino guy. And I think maybe that's why I love this film so much, is because I went into it expecting something. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. When the movie was announced and it was going to be about the Manson murders, with Sharon Tate. So I was a little skeptical because we know Tarantino's propensity for violence, and this seemed like I think with something like Django Unchained, the brutality of it kind of fit. It kind of makes someone like me, who's a white person, feel very uncomfortable because that's a part of our history of which is a permanent guilt that we have to live with, the sins of our fathers. It kind of made sense, but the Sharon Tate murders and kind of Tarantino's love of kind of throwback retro stuff, it kind of seemed like it was in bad taste. So I really went into it with a pessimistic eye. So, and I think everybody knows when you go to see a movie, um, your expectations have a big part to play on what you're going to see. Recently I saw Nomadland. Um, a lot of hype behind it when I finally saw it. That kind of colored my review of it. I'll have to rewatch it, that kind of thing. So it works the opposite way as well. So when I saw this movie, I was in love with it because it really was a love note to when Hollywood was changing. And it kind of plays what I love the most about it with the screenplay and it does. First of all, it doesn't feel like Tarantino's showing off, which is great. This is just him hooking up a Ethernet cord directly into his brain of trivia knowledge of things that basically we haven't thought about in decades, and just purely downloading that for the audience. And instead of Sharon Tate being a tragedy, this is where the fairy tale component comes in. It kind of shows that with the end of one era, there could have been the birth of another. With this new wave of Hollywood coming in, and I just personally love that. I love that we have kind of this aging actor who's falling out of favor. He's falling like his natural talents, which for his time was excellent, are falling out of favor. We have Leonardo DiCaprio's character, and then you kind of have Brad Pitt, who's kind of like his hanger-on, like gopher kind of guy, stunt double. That's is going to kind of go with wherever Leonardo DiCaprio goes. They're basically coming to an impasse, and I find it a beautiful story of not only capturing. It does two things right. It captures the history of Hollywood perfectly to a T. It's sure it's a little glorified, like any Hollywood love story truly is. Most Hollywood loves to pat itself on the back, but it's surprisingly for a Tarantino film not a pessimistic movie. It's very optimistic, and that's why I love it. Really, even though maybe this actor, Rick Dalton, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, is out of his element and being aged out of the industry, he still has that passion. He still has that desire to be something more than he is, and that's a great thing to see. Like I said, expectations played a big factor into this, but one of the criticisms of the film is that it is too much of a hangout movie. Basically, you got Brad Pitt as Cliff Booth driving around for like 45 minutes, just hitting on random, Manson chicks and just passing by, period-specific Taco Bells and such. And it can seem a little indulgent, but I think that what's going on with film these days is there's kind of a tendency to forget about where we came from. I was kind of thinking this recently as I was watching the films of Anna Biller, who films in 35 millimeter, that everything's digital now. If you can't find something, you can just fill it in the background with a computer. I know I'm overgeneralizing that, but there just seems to be, oh man, this is hard.
Oh no. Hey, finish your thought. I'm with you. Bonus time for sure. First day, first
Bonus
episode.
time.
Go for it. Oh well,
okay,
no. Finish your thought. I'll get to my 5, then we'll hop in together.
What?
No problem, man. No, finish your thought. Go for it.
Okay. I was just going to say, that we need to kind of have a respect for our past, and that's why the very optimistic look at what Hollywood was, what it became, from one of the most, whether you consider him a brilliant voice, he's at least an important voice in current day cinema. Having that optimistic tone and having that respect for the past makes the film just so worth watching. And there's just so many more things I could go on about, but I only have a 5 minute plus a little extra time. It's like soccer in Europe. You get a little extra time after the 90 minutes. But I will surrender to your opinion now.
Sure, you bet. No. Fair is fair. We'll open our 5. Then that's the fun part. We get to go.
But you only get 5 minutes. You don't get any extra time.
I will not give it. I won't need extra minutes. I'm good to go. No, for me, I'm right there with you. I respect Quentin Tarantino and what he does for cinema and all that, and I'm right down there with you with the fairy tale aspect. I think all Quentin Tarantino movies, to some degree, are a fairy tale for sure, because he loves to take this kind of made up story, usually designed to mislead you, and have a little fun with it in his kind of, like you said, hardwired to his brain in a very dark and unreal beauty, perfection, luck, and happiness. Like he loves to throw those character challenges into his movies, and I respect him for all that. And I think every single one of his movies is just a pervasive twist on some kind of fairy tale. They're just more crass, more extreme, and more violent than the stuff we put in front of kids. And not that a Quentin Tarantino movie ever needs to be in front of kids, but for me, I like all that on its face value. I like the idea that you can maybe kind of tell a little bit of a Hollywood legend with Sharon Tate, that you can kind of have a hilarious duo with Rick Dalton and oh gosh, I'm going to forget the character's name already as well. But between Brad Pitt and Leo, you have
Cliff
this buddy
Booth.
movie. So Cliff Booth, that's where we're going. But no, for me, it's he has his strength is there because of his creativity for homage, and the idea to kind of put the fancy, the zeal, and the style. All that is great Tarantino stuff, and like you said, toned down from some of the more racial and controversial places he had been doing in the last couple of movies. Where he still kills me though is length and pacing. His brand of chatty and meandering excessiveness is something that just wears thin on me. I don't get me wrong. He has the gift of gab. His movies have great conversations, whether you're talking about tipping in Reservoir Dogs or $5 milkshakes in Pulp Fiction. But those things used to be done in a tighter way in his older movies. And from about Hateful Eight on, he just can't stop talking. Like, get on with it already. Like he is a professional man about beating around the bush to the point where he can do gardening and landscaping anywhere in the Hollywood Hills. And that's where he loses me is when it gets too casual, when it takes forever to get from one place to another. Where, don't get me wrong, the coolness of Cliff riding around in a car, the coolness of 1960s radio and all that is nice choice production values. I don't need minutes upon minutes of it. Fine film, interesting places where great performances, and in the small little moments of dalliances, they're great. Like, I love the scene with Leonardo DiCaprio and the young little girl actress. Like, that's great. Do I need then go see him hit the set for a full 12-minute scene? Nah, trim it up a little bit. That's my thing with Quentin, is that he can get a little high in his own supply, where all the style is great, all the smarts is great, all the wit is there, but he just gets to a place where he just cannot stop himself. And I wish he could just hire an editor, and not just the editor for his movies and scenes, where reining in the pacing and finding the marks that he can do there when the film is completed and we're trying to chop that thing up into a movie. I wish he can hire an editor at the scripting stage. Don't get me wrong, the man has the pedigree. He has won his Oscars for writing, and I dig that. But it just gets excessive. It just goes on, and the chatty Cathiness just can be a little much. Great example of a good version is the Bruce Lee scene. That scene comes in, comes out, has its gag, has its laugh. You're done, 4 or 5 minutes, not too bad. Then you get to the compound with Bruce Stern and a young Dakota Fanning and all that. And I don't mind the buildup of the tension. I don't mind some of the stuff that goes there, but it just it just drags. So for me, I like the scene. I like where the movie can goes. I don't need 2 hours and 45 minutes of it. You can trim that down to 2:15, even two, and you still get a great type movie. I know a lot of people get mad about, like, was there enough Sharon Tate and was there enough Margot Robbie, or because we're going for the fairy tale thing, like they were kind of offended by the ending and, like, just the revisionist history part. That's par for the course for Tarantino. No problem there. And for me, I'll circle this all back in my last 30 seconds to the idea that you kind of brought up with expectations. I'm one of those guys, and you'll learn about this from me when we do our show. And the more we talk and the more we kind of share with the audience, I'm not an expectations guy. I table them as much as I can. I don't watch trailers. I look at a plot summary and a blurb, and I'm like, I'm in. Let's go. So everything was wholly unpredictable for me going into that movie, especially the revisionist history ending. And as much as it feels kind of excessive, it also still feels fun. But by the time you finally get to that big release and that big pop off, I'm exhausted from the 2 hours and 40 minutes of the movie that came before it. right on the timer. Look at that.
Whoa, what a pro! Wow,
Pro. Pro. It's because
jeez.
I'm watching the clock too. It helps.
Oh, see, I don't have
So
the benefit of that.
I can't say that I like hate it. It's the thing. The other thing you'll learn about me is I'm not a masterpiece guy. Everyone wants to call things instant masterpieces every 2 seconds when the thing gets finished and reviewed. I'm one of those guys that you only get a masterpiece like when you're dead and your career is over and they reevaluate everything you do and go, that's the one that's your best. I'm one of those, you only get one in your career things. Maybe you get more than one if you've typified a genre or done something else. But so for all those folks out there that go to Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and call it a masterpiece, I'm like, whoa, too far. He's done better and he's done more with less in other places. So yeah, that's 5 for you. That's 5 for me.
Obviously.
Back and forth. Yeah. Tell me more.
Okay. So I'm going to address the editing issue first. Basically, from the beginning of Tarantino's career, like as a filmmaker, I believe from Reservoir Dogs on, he had kind of a right hand woman as an editor, Sally Menke. She
Okay. Yeah.
was she was the editor on Reservoir Dogs. She Pulp Fiction, Four Rooms, Jackie Brown, Kill Bill, Glorious Bastards. You know, she was there for all of
Yeah,
this
man.
major stuff. And
Yeah. See, that's the
she
Tarantino
unfortunately
I love. The
died.
tight, composed stuff. Yeah.
But unfortunately, she died in 2010, and you know we don't want to just relegate Sally Menke just to this like, you know, she was this editor and wasn't a human. But you know, it's like you said, as soon as uh, as soon as he started making films after her passing, there was this tendency to kind of go on and on.
Mm-hmm.
I have major issues with Hateful Eight myself. I think it's a film that's
Yeah.
completely up its own ass.
I agree.
It's in love with itself. Um,
Oh, yeah. Right there with you.
yeah. So and that comes in with the expectations. I know you're not an expectations guy,
I
but
try not to be. I
yeah,
try.
but it's hard when you have a director that has such a cultural imprint. Like when you here's the new
Agreed.
Tarantino film, you can't help but think of the prior work. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why my expectations were different because I'm not a huge Tarantino fan. I like Pulp Fiction. I like Reservoir Dogs. I like Inglourious Bastards. I don't love these films like a lot of people do.
Mm-hmm.
Jackie Brown is fine. But yeah, I don't. I'm not in love with them. I'm not like part of the Tarantino hive, you know. So
Yeah. Yeah. Me neither. Me neither.
yeah. So this is I
But
went
I
in
respect. But I'm with you. I
skeptical.
respect his work and all that going to it. And once you bring the stars that you bring into this movie, I'm with you. I was hooked. I was in.
Yeah, and you know, I don't want to feed into the cult of celebrity or anything,
Mm-hmm.
but I do think there is something if somebody can capture it. Richard Linklater has done it in the past. Other
Yeah.
filmmakers have done it in the past. If you can really capture a day in the life of someone, I'm thinking like Dazed and Confused, where nothing
Right.
really happens, but you're so like you're. It's almost like you're a
Into
fly
the
on the wall.
journey.
Yeah, you're into the
Right.
journey.
Right. Linklater's a great example for that. Totally agree.
Yeah, the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was that for me. Like the
Okay.
minute they get in the car and start driving, I was like, I want to spend like my whole life with these guys. You know, it felt
So
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 personal.
so in this position, length isn't an issue. You wanted almost more. Like
Oh, I could
I
have.
guess you
Yeah.
know what? I admit I can be that same guy. Here, I'll give you a counterexample of something where I want to be in that same world, but in a different place where I wish the other parts of the story would go away. My example, kind of like a counterexample situation, would be the Will Ferrell, Mark Wahlberg movie, The Other Guys,
Okay.
where I could give a shit about the case they try to solve and the villains out there. My favorite 15 minutes of the movie is when they're busting each other's balls in the office at the desk. You know, I want 2 hours of a skit of just them trying to get through paperwork. I could care less if they're chasing Samuel L. or The Rock. Like, that's the 2 hours I would spend. And honestly, you know what? I find myself agreeing with this part of you. I could spend 2 hours in the car just shooting the shit with, with Cliff and Rick. Totally. You know, I don't, maybe I don't need Sharon Tate. Maybe I don't need the Manson stuff. Maybe I don't even need the show. I just need those two guys hanging out and having whiskey sours. If it was just that, yeah, I'm in. To give me 2 hours and 45 minutes of all this other superfluous stuff, that's where it loses me.
Yeah, I get you. I get you. I can totally see
Yeah,
that problem. I think that, yeah, for me, length is all a matter of perspective. Like, for instance,
true.
you recently just watched the Zack Snyder cut. I haven't had the time yet, and I don't know if I want to have the time yet to watch a 4 hour cut of a film. However,
Fair enough.
it may, just depending on how it grabs you, you sometimes you want
Hmm.
more. You know, that's
It's true.
so it all depends on. So if you're not into it from the beginning, like you said, I know that you said you like the shoot the shit stuff, but it does seem like
Hmm.
maybe you're looking for a plot, like you're looking for more there. If
Yeah,
that makes sense.
right. And but the hard thing is, like, expectations aside, that's kind of Quentin Tarantino. He's these collections of happenstance. He brings these ideas together because, even, I mean, my favorite of his is Jackie Brown, but second favorite, of course, is Pulp Fiction. So when you look at Pulp Fiction, you have these dangling little lives that kind of all have their own little rotations and gravities that bump into each other and hit in bombastic ways with Pulp Fiction. And with Jackie Brown, it feels a little more coordinated. And I like Jackie Brown the most because that's something Quentin didn't write, or at least, like, that comes from Elmore Leonard first and then Quentin second, where it's just he still had a little bit of a boundary to distill, and that helped for me. Because when you just leave the chatty Cathy Quentin to himself, you get all that. You get all that dangling, and then it's uneven. An example for uneven for me is like Death Proof. Like, I don't need 35 minutes of girls bitching and moaning at whatever diner they're at until Kurt Russell brings them on a ride of their lives. I'll take the ride of their lives for 45 minutes, called the best short film in the whole wide world, and I can cut out all the bitching and moaning at a diner. I got all the bitching and moaning at a diner back in Reservoir Dogs. So I could, yeah, and like, if you dangle, the initial bar meetup that they have, and then you get to the big chase at the end, like, I didn't need, like, he just chooses things that sometimes match, sometimes don't, and that's him just having fun. That's him letting his actors have fun, and I dig that. But it just has, I don't know. It's I haven't seen, like, and this is a good thing. I haven't seen the best of Tarantino yet. Put it all together as perfect as can be, where all the characterization and the freedom he gives his actors all of a sudden match with this dynamite, perfect, engaging story, and it all fits in perfect. Maybe the closest is, oh man, I don't know, maybe Inglorious Bastards, but then you still have your revisionist history and curveballs, but you have this great villain, you have this fun hero, you have all these fun little takes, and all the styles still there too. I don't know, it's just tough. I
Yeah,
can't call this
yeah.
movie a masterpiece, that's for sure. A
I
lot of people are like, "Oh my gosh, it's the best thing Quentin Tarantino's ever done." I'm like, "Get out of here, no way."
This is why I think it's the best thing he's ever done. Um,
Oh, let's hear it.
is
I gotta hear. Give me the
because
cemented answer of why is this the best. I gotta hear this.
okay, so we write for 25 years later. At the
We do.
time of the end of 2019, I was
Hmm.
tasked with writing like a best films of the year article, um, and I did that. And I initially placed uh, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood at number 9 out of the top 10 of the year.
Okay.
Um, that year, our local cinemas put on a like best picture festival, of all the films nominated for best picture,
Right.
and I went and saw it on the big screen for the first time. I had only seen it when it came out on VOD. Seeing it on the big screen, I was like, okay, I'm moving this up to number 5 now. And the more I sat on it, the more I thought about it, the more like I
Hmm.
thought about it every day of my life. Like I literally don't go a day without thinking about that film. The more it just
How about that?
um, grows into masterpiece-ness for me. Um,
Ooh, I dig that. I dig
because
that.
I literally think about this film every day, and I
Wow.
I I don't know what it is. I don't
I
know.
know. We gotta get you. We gotta get you a life, a girlfriend, or a job, man. Come on.
Yeah, well,
Come on.
well, I mean, maybe because we're teachers, we need
Uh
that
huh.
escape, and I'd rather drive in the car for
I hear you.
for 3 hours
Good
with
call.
somebody. Like I said, I could go for a 5 hour cut of this film. I wouldn't care as long as I'm with those
I would
characters.
take. Yeah, as much as I'm bemoaning length over here, I would take a 5 minute cut of this instead of a 5 hour roadshow cut of Hateful Eight. I'm there with you. If you have to give me 5 hours of something, I'll take this one. I'm with you there.
Yeah, yeah, and I want to give a shout out because,
Hit it.
like you mentioned, I don't have a girlfriend, um, so um, so I
Ooh,
have to.
ladies.
So I'm going to make an appeal here. There was a very
Uh huh.
small casted role, Quentin Tarantino, and this is why I applaud him for his brilliance in this movie. But there was a character called Abigail Folger. She was
Okay.
heiress to the Folger coffee people. She was one of the victims of the Manson family in real life.
Okay.
Obviously, she survives in this film version, but she is played by Samantha Robinson, who was the lead actress in the film The Love Witch. If any of you have seen it, um,
I have. Yeah.
yeah, she.
Oh,
I think she's
that's a good
probably
dream to
the
have.
most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. So the fact that I get to spend even just a short 2 minutes with her in this film
Mm-hmm.
is a gift that keeps on giving. So thank you, Quentin Tarantino, for giving me more Samantha Robinson content.
I can't argue with that. She's Stone Cold Fox, man. Good call. Good call. No, from there on out, like yeah, like I can't bemoan the production value and the style. Like to have diegetic music the way they do, to let these actors drive and like keep those different parts and pieces moving and let those actors have fun. All that's well and good. Like it's just places I could still trim. Like I could do without Al Pacino. I know you get Al
Oh
Pacino in a
my
Tarantino
god!
movie.
What?
But that scene is it's one unnecessary scene when you can do the whole Rick down in his luck stuff and you can do the Italian film montage just to kind of show the crap stage of his career, but all that can be done a whole lot shorter than it
Oh my
does.
god! That's my
Night
favorite
again,
scene. That's my
great.
favorite scene in the
Is
movie.
it? Oh,
Yes.
come on.
First of all, it's
My favorite
Pacino.
scene, like I said, I get it. I get it, but I no, my favorite scene is him and the girl. Him and the girl actress when they're comparing craft and they're breaking each other down a little bit, and you see the real Rick come through. Like, oh man, like that's just my fallities as an
It's true.
actor and all that, and
I'll give you
that's
that.
yeah.
That is a fantastic scene.
I mean, don't get me wrong, Pacino. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Pacino's choice. He. I don't want to come. Well, no, this is cinephile hissy fit. The man's a has been. I'm just gonna say it right now. Al Pacino is a has been, and
Whoa!
he's slumming.
Oh, okay.
He at this
Okay.
stage now don't get me wrong, he's doing better work. He's doing better work on television than he is doing on movies right now. When he does his Phil Spector thing, when he does his HBO movies, when he's doing Joe Paterno, that's when he's inspired by material. This is a glorified cameo for a paycheck, and don't get me wrong, it's a dream casting scenario to have him there. I could do without it. Trim that. Let's get on to the set. Let's
Oh
get
yeah, we
Cliff in there with
got.
Bruce Lee. Let's get Leo to talk to the girl. Let's get to the Western and go. I don't need Al to have a pina colada with me at a bar. Cool, unnecessary. That's all.
No. No. False.
All right, all right.
But that's fine. That's fine. Now, here's the thing.
I hear you.
Now, this is the great thing about
Yes, sir.
2019. 20,
Mm-hmm.
2019 will forever give us the first time in Al Pacino's epic career that he worked with Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino, and he did it in the same year. And to
Oh,
me,
don't
his
even get me
character,
started on the Irishman. Oh,
I yeah, we have issues with the Irishman. I understand that, and we're not going to have an episode about
do
that
we have
because I think
shared issues? I dislike
probably.
it. How were you at? Okay.
Now it's funny
See, we
that
don't have to
I
fight
had
about that
once.
one.
See, I had once upon a time going up in my life on lists.
Mm-hmm.
Irishman was originally number 10, and now I wouldn't even consider it a best film of 2019.
Yeah.
It goes down
It not even in
for
my
me.
top 20. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
it
right there
goes
with you.
down for me over time. Um,
See,
but
here on the
yeah.
first episode of the show, I have found a redeeming quality about you in your mild treatment of the Irishman, because everyone else thinks I'm crazy. Like, oh, it's got a Criterion spine. It's this moonlight stage of a gangster. Please, it's a hospice bedtime story. That's all it is. But we're digressing in the last minute of our 15 minutes of back and forth.
Yes, yes.
Will,
Let's
you are the lover. Will, you are the lover. I defer the last minute to you. Hit it, man.
Well, it was an interesting first episode to do because we're actually not too far off on it. I think that
No, I
our
think
main
so.
disagreements are in the style of it, like what the
Sure.
choices were in the editing process. I think that we both like the film. We both like the idea of the film. We like scenes in the film. So
But you're
really, we're
hanging
not
it on the
having that.
masterpiece shelf. I'm
But
hanging it on
I
the Hall of Very Good.
no, and that's totally fine. Um,
Okay, okay.
but we're not having a hissy fit about it, which is weird because that's what our show is
No.
called. But
You
I'm sure
drummed
in
up this
future
whole thing that
episodes,
I must hate the movie. I'm here answering your challenge, my man.
yes, but that's usually
Good
because
call,
when
good call.
you send me a chat or a message, I usually don't read it and ignore it. So you
Good
probably
point.
said you love the film, and I just ignored you
Eh.
because I don't pay attention to you at all.
There it is. That's our 15 minutes. Hopefully you folks got a place where you can see where Will's coming from on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Hopefully you can see where I'm coming from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We may put this up on a Twitter poll of who gave the better argument, but in the meantime, that's just where we've been. Will, other than that, how'd you feel for a first episode?
Great. I hope we actually got it because I know that I don't know how to do anything technologically. So
But
it could be that I just
didn't
talk
you
to
set this
myself.
whole thing up? Come on, man.
Yeah.
You didn't set
Well,
this whole thing up?
obviously I did.
All right. Well,
But yeah.
hey, fake it
I
till
can't
you
do
make it,
everything.
man. Fake it till you make it.
Yes.
How about the outro for you? You got the notes up?
Yeah, let's do the outro. Okay. So everybody, follow us on Twitter at Cinephile Fits. You can follow us on Facebook by looking up. I believe it's just
It
Cinephile
is
Hissy Fits.
Cinephile Hissy Fits. Yes, sir.
We are going to post a poll matching this episode for you listeners to weigh in on who you think made the most compelling argument, me, to win this Cinephile Hissy Fit.
Me.
Thank you so much for your captive audience and social media participation. Cinephile Hissy Fits is a 25YL media podcast brought to you by ruminationsradionetwork.com. Please visit, rate, review, and subscribe. Even if you hate Don and love me, still love the show. It doesn't matter.
Yes, please.
If you enjoyed
Love
this
us
show,
anyway.
we have more. We have more where that came from, with interesting hosts and wonderful guests. Samantha Robinson, please. Fingers crossed. All available on iTunes, Spotify, and anywhere you find your favorite shows.
Will, man, thanks for this first spin. I love where this is going.
Cool. Awesome.
Hey, this is Charlie, Triple C, from Brevity Box, a new and interesting podcast from the Ruminations Radio Network. If you're a fan of podcasts, we have a lot of great content to offer. Come check out our diverse group of podcasts and hosts at ruminationsradionetwork.com.